He is Tom Luganbill, national college football analyst with ESPN. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, and we're ESPN 105.9 The Zone. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. We've been having fun today talking about the SEC and how everybody in college football is taking crazy pills because we can't figure out, who's the best team, which teams are going to the college football playoff quite yet. We've got an idea, but a lot more football left to be played, including championship games. But these next 2 weeks could be wild too. And Georgia comes back and has a big dub. Florida looked good. Lagway didn't have one rushing attempt, and yet they beat LSU. And then South Carolina rips Missouri's heart out. Luganbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. How you been, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I thought those three games were nuts, man. Missouri at South Carolina and Tennessee, Georgia was very compelling, and LSU at Florida was a hell of a ball game. I wasn't sure what we were going to get on Saturday, Luke's, in the league, and yet I thought it was a very, very entertaining game. I tell you what really jumped out at me is Billy Napier has taken a beating down at Florida, and they do the whole Sun Belt Billy thing, and people I think that know that he can coach. It's just some weird stuff going on down there. All right, as a former starting quarterback at Georgia Tech, you started at the Power 5 level. Talk to me about how impressed you are that Billy Napier put together an offensive game plan with DJ Lagway, who is a mobile dual threat QB and with one hamstring, and he didn't have one rushing attempt. I was pretty damn impressed, Luke.
Oh, I was impressed, but I'm not surprised because I think that football team with DJ Lagway at quarterback, who, by the way, is 3-1 as a starter, he's 3-0 in games he's finished. I think he would have won the Georgia game had he not gotten injured. They were in control of the game. They were gaining momentum. I think that thing would have been a potential different outcome. But the thing about Florida is they can play defense. They can affect the quarterback. And the freshman running back, Jaden Baugh, and the offensive line dominated the line of scrimmage. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it came down to. The quarterback is the difference. Now, listen, my saying that had Florida had DJ Lagway when they went on the road and they played Texas, they would have beat Texas. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I think the game would have been a different type of game. I think it would have been a different style game. But now what we've seen is clearly this program is making progress. Clearly the buy-in is there on behalf of the players, because if it wasn't, they had every opportunity to fold and pack it in, and they didn't do that. And I think Scott Strickland, the athletic director, acknowledged that. He saw that. He could see the response to the message that Billy Napier was sending. And I'm somebody that applauds it, because there has been a cloud of negativity over this program that is vastly as a result of fan interaction and fan reaction. And it's like, dude, step away and acknowledge that there is progress being made here. These Florida fans were looking at the schedule back in August and going, oh my goodness, how are we going to navigate this? How are we even going to get in contention? Well, guess what they have? And not only have they done it, they've done it with three different quarterbacks, one of which is a walk-on, the other is a true freshman. And then you've done it with a freshman running back and a defense that's become vastly improved. I think this team is a totally different team than it was 5 weeks ago.
Tom Luganbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. All right, what about this weekend? Ole Miss at Florida. Ole Miss has the better team. Lane and Golding have it going. However, you got to go down to Gainesville, 11 a.m. our time, noon their time. Lagway's hamstring may be, a lot better. When you look at this matchup, what's the first thing that comes to mind, Tom Luganbill?
Can SMU handle the Florida defensive front seven and stay ahead of the downs, stay ahead of the chains? Because the most improved area of that football team from the first 2 to 3 weeks to now is their ability to play defense and to affect the quarterback. I mean, Florida is dominating up front, and it is really hard to win at the line of scrimmage against that team right now. And we've talked over and over about how important it is for a team like Ole Miss to play their style of game, right? Play fast, get ahead of the chains, get the first down so that you can get up to the line of scrimmage as fast as possible, keep the opposition personnel on the field, whether they like it or not, and start to dictate the terms of the game. And that's why I think that's the kind of the X factor here with this game. You're on the road, as you mentioned, noon kick Eastern time, hostile environment, a team that's riding high, all of a sudden a fan base that's re-energized in the stadium. And I think this is a really scary game for Ole Miss.
Okay. Ole Miss
think of what Ole Miss has riding on it. Think of what they've got riding on it. This is it. They lose this game, they're out.
Yeah. No, they are out. And if they lose, Ron Roberts has made that defense better at Florida. Veteran, had success. And I agree. You know, I didn't know they had those kind of dudes in the defensive line. It's funny, they don't win, but they still recruit between like 10 and 15, and they still get good 4-star players, don't they? Luke, is somebody head of ESPN recruiting?
Well, yeah, not only 4-star players and some 5-star players as well, and then they've been able to develop some players in a really nice way, and they've had some of the freshmen that they need to come in and play, like L.J. McCray, like Jaden Baugh, like DJ Lagway, that they needed to really play well, to come in and have some form of an impact. They've done that. And so I think what you're going to start seeing is that they continue to make progress and they continue to develop and show improvement. And then all of a sudden the confidence level rises. Then in recruiting, whether it's the portal, whether it's high school recruiting, the confidence of the program on behalf of outsiders looking in starts to change. And that's how you create a wave of momentum going into the offseason and heading into 25.
Tom Luganville on the Out of Bounds Show, driven by your next Ford F-150 truck at Mack Hike Ford, I-55 North in Jackson. Okay, that Ole Miss defensive line is one of the best in the country. Bama's, Georgia's, Texas. Sounds like you have Florida at least in the top 6 of the SEC, maybe.
Oh, in the conference, absolutely.
Okay.
Right now, the way they're playing like them into South Carolina.
Okay. So Walter Nolan, Chris Paul, these guys at Ole Miss. So what is Napier? Let's say DJ Lagway can move around a little bit more at 7 days later. They didn't move, not one rushing attempt, and yet Napier and Lagway figured it out. Like you said, they pounded the rock too, and really looked good on some of the run schemes. You know more about those things than we do, but I just know it was effective and successful and efficient. Okay, and that their other running back was really good too. 24. He looks like a physical load.
Yeah, Jacoby Jackson.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So Ole Miss has been top 5 pretty much all year in defense. What is Golding going to try to do, and what is Napier going to try to do to have success throughout the morning and afternoon in Gainesville?
Until they figure out whether or not Lagway is a threat to run, I think they play with a normal box, try to stop the run with 6 in the box without having to add an extra hat, protect the back end of the defense until further notice, right? Because if they choose not to run DJ Lagway, I think Ole Miss is good enough to hold up at the point of attack and make it tough sledding for Florida without having to add somebody into the box, whether it's pre-snap, whether it's post-snap, what have you. And so I think it's a bit of a let's see how the first couple of series play out. How are they attacking us? How are they utilizing DJ Lagway? Because if he's not a factor, I think that changes things defensively because, as you mentioned, Florida's got guys defensively that they haven't had before. And that's really kind of been the difference in why they're in the position right now, because they can hold up at the point of attack. So let's see through the first couple of series how Florida decides to approach Ole Miss, and I think that will dictate what Pete Golding does as far as the numbers in the box on defense.
I wonder if points could be at a premium, especially early with these two defenses.
Oh, I think to some degree, the game inside the game is both teams might be able to move the ball. Who scores in the red area, touchdowns versus field goals?
Yeah.
That's going to be something I think you got to pay close attention to.
Have you been around Pete Golding at all in the last 5 or 6 years, Luke's?
Oh, yeah, because I had several Alabama games, including I think the last one he coached in would have been the Sugar Bowl against Kansas State when Alabama demolished K-State. That was before I think he left for Ole Miss. But yeah, been around him a few times.
Tom Luganville on the Out of Bounds show. So Pete Golding, defensive coordinator at Ole Miss, did a good job at Alabama, has done an amazing job at Ole Miss. What's he like as far as demeanor, personality, and so on?
I think he's fiery. He's got energy, but he's also somebody that comes into the coaching meeting and he's not paranoid. He's not standoffish. He has a smile on his face. He likes talking about his football team, likes talking about his guys. There's probably now, and I can't make this a comment as a firsthand comment, but I think there are a lot of positives coaching for Nick Saban, but there are also a lot of challenges coaching for Nick Saban.
Sure.
Coaching on that side of the ball. And you're coaching on that side of the ball, and now you go from that to a program where the head coach is on the offensive side of the ball, and you're probably given a longer leash. You're probably given a little more autonomy, and it takes probably a level of pressure off of you, not pressure to perform on the field, but maybe pressure to please, right? Pressure to, seek approval from the head coach, who at the time would be Nick Saban. I think that creates its challenges emotionally, mentally. So there's probably a little bit more of a freedom, if you will, in his mind to coach in this defense as opposed to, coaching defenses at Alabama where he had really good defenses.
You think he could be a future head coach at some point, maybe G5, maybe even P4 right out of the gate, but definitely. Here's where I'm going. We've got Clayton White at South Carolina. Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You know this. We got Brad White at Kentucky. He has carried that program. That guy is insane. And he doesn't have an offense. I'm impressed with what South Carolina's been. You got Pete Golding at Ole Miss. I mean, these are some guys that are proven that they can do it in the toughest league in the land, week in, week out. One or two of the three may get a shot, Tom, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think what happens with high-profile assistants that are in a position with high-profile programs that have some success, they immediately go to the top of the board. Whether they should or they shouldn't, that's just human nature. They all have agents now, right? They all have people that can jockey and lobby for jobs on their behalf behind the scenes. And, does it guarantee that because Pete Golding coached at Alabama and coached at Ole Miss, or that Brad White's done a really good job as the defensive coordinator at Kentucky, or, whoever it may be, Buster Faulkner, an offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, that's done a remarkable job. Does that make them successful head coaches? I don't think there's ever going to be a guarantee of that, because there are so many variables that go into which job they take and what are the resources at their disposal at that job. And then can they manage being the head coach in the day-to-day differences that come along with that. So nobody's got a crystal ball, but I do believe your circumstances do help you in that manner in regards to being maybe pushed closer to the top of the list because of who you're affiliated with. And that's always going to play a role.
How good, let's go back to Ole Miss and Florida. Well, back to Florida, not just this year. I'm talking next year and possibly the next. Because he's hurt and he's young, but he's playing good football. Talk about the upside and potential and ceiling for DJ Lagway, quarterback at Florida. Luke's.
Oh, man. I mean, you're just scratching the surface, because you're talking about somebody with such a phenomenal skill set. And he's just starting to learn, what it takes to play quarterback at this level, the commitment it takes in the film room, the commitment it takes in the weight room, the things that you have to do that have nothing to do with actually being on the field and practicing. It's the theory of the game and the work ethic and all of the things that you've got to be willing to put in. And he's just starting to learn how to be a quarterback at the collegiate level. At the high school level, if you're a supreme talent, you have such distinct advantages, especially if you're on a high school team that's got good personnel around you. You're almost unstoppable. But then when the talent starts to even out and you're on a team and you're new and you're young and everybody's older than you and you're in the SEC, you're getting a lot thrown at you. I think he's handled things extremely well. I would credit his maturity. I would credit his emotional well-being, meaning that he's managed his emotions really, really well. And so I think there's a lot of boxes that have been checked. It's clear that there's a reason why everybody and their brother wanted that kid and why Florida's having success with him right now playing. But I think the sky's the limit with him. He's got a chance to be really, really special. And the difference between him and Anthony Richardson is he's way more accurate than Anthony Richardson.
Yes, more refined. I mean, his composure.
Absolutely.
I know Ole Miss is going to get after him, and he's going to face adversity on Saturday. But his composure against LSU and getting flushed out of the pocket, but keeping his eyes down the field and connecting a couple of times Saturday night was, considering he was hobbling around, was, I mean, Tom, that was impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, he's got the goods, and we talk about this every year, Bo. You and I have been doing it for years and years and years, and it is so hard to hit on a quarterback, right? It's one thing now with the portal, and there's guys that have played, so you have more of a sample size, and you say, yeah, this guy could play for us, and we've seen enough to convince us. But when you're doing it at the high school level, and there are all of these guys, and they're all high-profile guys, the percentages never weigh into your favor that you're going to be right. It's still a crapshoot.
Sure.
It is still a serious gamble. And if you hit on one, great. If you hit on two or three, it can set your program on a trajectory like it did with Alabama, like it did with Clemson, like it has with Ohio State. But you miss on one or two, now you got real problems.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to LSU. The fan base is up in arms. They're 6-4. We're visiting with Tom Luganbill, national college football analyst with ESPN. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line, brought to you by Spring Street Cigars in Starkville and Spring Street Cigars in Oxford. Lugs, LSU, tough loss, and now they go home. But Vanderbilt's coming in, who's had a week off. And LSU is better and all that stuff, but Diego Pavia's probably healthier. He's been limping around for 6 weeks, and this team's kind of nasty and old in the line of scrimmage. Could Vanderbilt, now that LSU is checked out and going to a bowl they're not interested in and way out of the college football playoff, could Vanderbilt go down there and make this thing interesting and muck up the game?
Yeah, I think absolutely. They're going to be hungry to do it. There's going to be a big target on LSU's back. You're going to challenge LSU's pride, their want to, their willingness, their intestinal fortitude by a team that is just happy to be there, knows they've made improvement, thinks that they can win. That's another big factor here. When was the last time a Vanderbilt team played against an LSU team and clearly had a belief that they could win the game? I think that's where Vanderbilt has put themselves this fall. And, listen, this LSU team, of their last 5 games, they've played the 9th-ranked team, the 14th-ranked team, and the 11th-ranked team. All right? Beat Ole Miss, we know that. Losses to A&M and Alabama, and then obviously I think Florida's better, as we've discussed, and people have given them credit for. So now we're gonna see what LSU is really made of. We're gonna see what this week in Baton Rouge has been like, and because I think it will reveal whether the team has tuned out Brian Kelly or is truly committed to the locker room and LSU football, regardless of what looks like it's been transpiring on the sideline.
Okay. Yeah, he talked about that in the postgame Saturday night. And he said, we're going to find out who wants to play the last 2 weeks of the season, and that's who we're going to play. Okay, that's intriguing. What about all right, so Tennessee's out. I think they're out. Unless some other things happen. Right now, to me.
Well, here's how Tennessee is out. There's 2 things. And a few things rely on how far does the committee tumble them, right? Like, if you're going to do what you did to Georgia, how do you justify not doing it to Tennessee? All right, so where they land tomorrow night's one thing. But here's the bigger issue that Tennessee has, is if you got to remember that the automatic bids go to the top 5 highest-ranked conference champions, not the top 5 conference champions with 4 of them being P4. That's not how it works. So if you're going to have Boise State, you're going to have Oregon, let's just say you had Texas, and you've got Miami. That's 4 right there, all right? and BYU wins the Big 12, Tennessee's out because you're going to have to still make room for Georgia, and you're going to have to make room for BYU, which leaves Tennessee on the outside looking in. The other wrench that could be thrown in this that could affect whether or not a Big 12 or an ACC team even gets in if they win their conference championship is what happens with the American Conference Championship between Tulane and Army. That's something to keep an eye on too.
Man, John Summerall at Tulane, first year, coming over from Troy. He's 9-2, Luke's.
Left a stocked cupboard, though. Willie Fritz did a great job there.
He did. Fritz went on to Houston,
yep.
and Fritz is one of those dudes that's a hell of a coach too. But Summerall taking advantage. He probably wants to get back to Kentucky, but he'll take other big jobs too. Okay, so you mentioned who do you think the SEC championship game scenarios?
So there's no clinching scenarios in Week 13 coming up, but I think what we're looking at here is likely Texas and Texas A&M winner versus an Alabama. Alabama has to beat Oklahoma and Auburn, and they need Missouri to win one. That puts Alabama in the game.
Okay. So A&M, Texas versus Bama. That's what it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the most likely of the scenarios.
All right. And do you want to rank? Do you want to real quick as we get out of here? Do you want to rank Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Texas 1 through 4 in the Tom Luganville Power Rankings on the Out of Bounds show?
If we were ranking them based off of who's beaten who, I think my ranking would be different because I'm not convinced Texas is the best team in the SEC right now.
No.
I could easily make a case, in my opinion, for Georgia or Alabama or Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. But you want to know who's playing better than all of them? South Carolina.
Of course, they're out, but yeah, you're right. They are. They're playing good football.
They're the team that nobody wants to play right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you this week?
I get to drive again. I've got Duke, Manny Diaz, trying to get his 8th win.
God, how about Manny, man? That's
dude,
so
they
cool.
Came out of spring ball, dude. They came out of spring ball. They had 45 players on their roster, and if you look at their schedule, they could literally finish 9-3.
Wow, good for him. Got punched in the mouth at Miami and fired in his hometown where his dad was a 2-time mayor. Goes to Penn State, and now he's winning at Duke. Good for Manny. He's a good dude, too. Thanks, Tom Luganville.
He is a great dude.
See you, buddy.
All right, see you.
Tom Luganville on the Out of Bounds show. Your next toolbox for your truck is powered by Rick's Pro Truck in Gluckstadt.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 9 a.m., and this ain't okay show. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
All aboard!
As Mississippi's #1 morning show rolls on the Zone 105.9 and online at thezone1059.com.
All right, we have an Ole Miss fan on the text line who says that Ole Miss should be favored by 2 touchdowns right now over the Florida Gators. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The Mac Hike Auto Group text line is 601-885-3776. It's driven by your next Ford Bronco from Mac Hike Auto Group or Chevy Tahoe from Mac Hike Auto Group. The text line, 601-885-3776. Did y'all see Joe Burrow's pregame outfit last night? Yes. Looks like something Jackson would wear. Is that your favorite player because of the way he dresses?
You know, I like Joey B a lot, but the tips at the beginning of the year, the frosted tips that he did,
yeah,
that just kind of set the tone for the year, I believe.
Set the tone?
For the year.
Not in a good way.
It's not in a good way. They haven't, they're looking bungalish, and it's not fair. Their losses have come down to one possession many a times, but they're still L's. Jamar Chase is getting the ball. He's eating. Joe Burrow's eating. They're playing good ball. They just can't find a way to win. It's weird. That set the tone.
They have played. You're right. They have been snake bit. We see this in college football too. Some teams. You make a good point. The Cincinnati Bengals have been snake bit. I like Burrow.
I do too. I like him a lot. I like Chase.
Too. Yeah.
Bengals are fun to watch.
Yeah, I tell you, the coolest uniforms yesterday in the NFL, I'll give you 2. Okay? Buffalo Bills 1. I love what they were wearing. And LA Chargers 2.
Love the throwback powder blues.
My boat is the color of San Diego Chargers.
Love that.
Blue.
You know, the first person.
I'm sorry. They'll always be San Diego to me because of Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow Sr., but I meant LA Chargers.
Yeah,
my bad.
They're still San Diego, right?
The fighting Jim Harbaughs.
There we go.
That was a hell of a catch right there by Chase.
And they're still fighting, and he's still scoring.
Oh, my gosh.
But even this game, have you seen the end of this?
Oh, I know.
Oh, it's just every week. And it started the first week, did it not, when they lost to the Chiefs?
It did. It did.
If they win that ball game, this whole year's different.
I think you're right. That's Evan McPherson, who was committed to Mississippi State and ended up going to Florida when Mullen went to Florida. Or McPherson.
Yeah, McPherson.
Yeah, McPherson. He was committed to MSU and then went to Florida. And there's woo!
And Herbert's great.
Oh, Herbert's a wonder.
Nice.
Both of them are super talented. There's McConkey from Georgia.
Love him.
I don't know if y'all watched this game yesterday, but Chargers Bengals was nuts. Yeah. And then
down to the end,
LA does what they need to do. Harbaugh just wins everywhere. He won at San Diego. They had no. I'm talking about the College of San Diego.
Right.
They had no scholarships. It's not San Diego State. San Diego. Then he goes to Stanford. They were awful. They were one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in Power 5 when Harbaugh got there.
Really?
They were going 1-10. That was back when playing 11 games, 12 games. 1-10, 2-10. I think they had thrown up an 0-12. They were awful. He turns them around. Then he goes to the San Francisco 49ers. They were god-awful for a 10-year stretch.
Yeah.
Wins there, goes to the Super Bowl. All right. Then he goes to Michigan in total disarray, dysfunction. Wins there. And he takes over the Chargers. They got win number 7 yesterday.
Because your boy, not even Herbert, Ladd, McConkey
from Georgia.
Him and Bowers.
Ripping.
They're just having field days.
What was Bowers' final stats yesterday for the Las Vegas Raiders?
They threw at him 16 times. They threw at their rookie tight end 16 times.
16 targets?
Went to him. How in the world?
That guy's going to make $200 million as a tight end.
No question.
His second
Oh,
contract
my
and
God.
third, if he stays healthy, it'll be filthy.
Maybe Price.
Filthy.
Yeah. Because he's going to be one of those, not really a tight end, but a tight end.
Yeah, I mean, you could say he's a flex,
He's a
whatever you want to
receiver.
Call him. He's phenomenal, is what he is.
He sure
can be
is.
whatever he wants. He can call himself a tight end tonight
Yeah.
at a party or a wide receiver.
16 targets, 13 hauled in.
Wow,
120 plus through the air or receiving, and a tutty. It's a week in, week out. This is the second time a rookie tight end has ever caught 10 passes twice in a year, like 10 in a game.
wow.
10's a lot. You don't see. I mean, your number one receivers aren't putting up 10 every week like that.
Brock Bowers from Georgia and McConkey from Georgia are making it rain for the Raiders and Chargers.
Eating. I mean, that's Gardner's best friend.
Yeah,
It really
a good point.
it is Gardner's. They always say tight ends are rookie quarterbacks' friends, regardless, or young quarterback. Let's say that.
Oh, when you, yeah.
They're their best friends, but now you make him the focal point of your offense.
Mm,
Oh, man, got 16.
mm.
Guard him. They still can't. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're still guarding him.
And Tua, they
Slice
still
it.
lost.
Yep.
I tell you something else that jumped out at me yesterday. Our NFL coverage is brought to you by Ice Cold Stella Artois. And let's go with the Shrimp Po' Boy at Martin's in Livingston. Steelers beat the Ravens in a typical slugfest in the AFC North. The Steelers beat the Ravens. And when people thought that counting Mike Tomlin out, now they're 8-2.
They're 8-2. They hadn't even played half the year with the same quarterback yet.
No.
Like, I don't think. I mean, people forget that. And Russ is what Russ is. He's very good. He knows how to win. He's proven that.
He can make a play here or there, but they won on defense
And that's it.
and field position
That's it.
and understanding who they were and who they are and what they. That's two phenomenal coaches in Tomlin and Harbaugh going against each other.
Well, how many times have we seen it to where the backup quarterback really, truly matters? They matter. If Russ gets dinged, you can turn around. You already got a guy who's got multiple 4 or 5 wins under his belt this year.
Well, Russ had an okay day.
He's playing like,
but they won on defense and special teams.
he's game managing to the most effective game management.
23 of 36, 205 and a pick. I mean, he was fine.
Yeah,
They won on defense and special teams.
That's how. I mean,
They had Lamar. Lamar didn't do what he does because they dialed it up. So remember that. Steelers, watch out. They're winning ugly. Who cares?
that's how you're supposed to win in the playoffs.
I was with NFL Chuck Mullins yesterday, and his Browns did not play well against your Saints,
What
who are playing their way out of a good pick.
idiots!
And it looks like Houdat's trying to get to the playoffs. I know they're 4-7.
It doesn't. I mean, but they're one game out.
Who knows, right?
I mean, we have seen way worse things happen in the NFC South.
Yeah.
And we've had, even before they extended the season, the year, we had 7-9 teams going.
Let's talk about Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. 38-6.
Bo Nix. Bo looked good.
Yeah.
He looked so good. Even though the defense played pretty. They
played lights out.
Yeah.
No question. But you're right. Bo Nix played some good football.
Throwing jump balls. He was just looking good, man. Going through progressions.
Did you say progressions
I said
on this show?
That's what he was doing.
That's hardcore sports.
I know.
Wow.
I'll opt out of that.
Yeah. Twitter handle at BowBounds. The Stella Artois caller line 601-707-3750. LSU insider Jordy Collada coming up at 9:30. They'll burn Baton Rouge down if they lose to Vanderbilt this weekend at night. There'll be about 80,000 people in there instead of 105, maybe 75,000 people in there, maybe less than that. LSU in trouble. Jordy Collada at 9:30. Oh, man. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. Game ball to Shane Beamer this year. Shane Beamer, South Carolina Gamecocks. He's going to get a fat new contract. He'll be good. Doesn't matter what happens. They'll load the boat way too much. Does he deserve a little bit of a bump? Yeah. Obviously, they have done a hell of a job this year because Lenora Sellers was hurt for a chunk of it, and they've won a bunch of games. And they're still kind of iffy on offense, but they have started to figure it out. But on defense, they are filthy. And so I got to give Coach of the Year to Shane Beamer, a game ball to Shane Beamer, a game ball to Billy Napier, and a game ball to Kirby Smart. Yeah. Most disappointing team in the league, considering expectations before the year, would be Eli Drinkwitz.
Oh, yeah.
I never bought it. If you listen to the show, you knew that. But maybe Auburn. But, I mean, Auburn didn't have a lot of buzz. We questioned for 6 months during the offseason, why did Hugh Freeze decide to run it back with Peyton Thorne even before we saw what it looked like? Now, I will tell you this. A&M better be careful this weekend going down to Auburn. And y'all can say, Bo, you're crazy. A&M's good. They ain't that good. Like, you can't just sleepwalk down at Auburn. And DJ Durkin's defense is good. And A&M's not great on offense. So, like, that could be a game where you look up and it's 17-14 with 5 minutes left to go on the Plains, and somebody's got to make a play. Now, I know Auburn has been up double digits multiple times and lost games this year. But I'm just saying, now, if A&M gets bounced, then it's over. They gone, I think. Well, I guess if they still beat. No, they are. That'll be their third loss. Yeah. Only second conference loss, but they're gone from the playoff scenario, even if they beat Texas the next week in the renewed rivalry of the Aggies and the Longhorns at the Aggies Thanksgiving weekend.
Where are you at on that game right here, right now?
Well,
you think A&M's going to beat them, don't you?
I think A&M's going to really make it a bloodbath. They're a physical team. They're really good in the line of scrimmage. Their defense is nasty. Elko will play off the Texas is snobs. They look down at you. That whole thing. Yeah. But they got to go to Auburn and win. Well, they don't have to, but they need to.
Whoa, trap game?
For sure.
Big time, right?
Because Texas has Kentucky. Although, Kentucky can't do it. Even as bad as Texas is playing.
They're playing bad.
I watched that game, Texas at Arkansas. I mean, Texas had no mojo. Now, their defensive line won the game for them. I mean, when they wanted to, they would rev it up. Taylon Green couldn't do anything. He doesn't have a lot of pocket awareness. And I'll give Texas, man, that those edge rushers in that D-line, they're nasty. But on offense, Quinn Ewers, and they didn't stretch the field. They just kind of ran the football here and there. They did do the double move early in the game where when they went up 7-0 when Ewers hit the wide receiver on the double move, which is a pretty play. But after that, they were lethargic.
Yes.
They were lethargic. And Arkansas's not any good. And it was just kind of a nothing burger as a game.
Well,
they did the double move early. They go up, and then they kind of went to the house after that. They were like, we're not interested in being here type deal. But I'm not sure. I don't think Texas is what they played a hell of a schedule.
Yeah, a gift.
I mean, a gift.
A gift. Hey, here's your first year in the SEC. Why don't we make this one easy for you? And they're still not going to make it.
They didn't play a road SEC game
until
October 26th.
That's incredible.
And it was at Vanderbilt. And they won 26-24 or
ugly
27-24.
Ugly ball game.
Something like that.
Wasn't any good. And a week after, Vandy had taken it to Bama, right?
Yeah.
So they were, dinged a little bit.
Let's see.
Are we going to be talking about Sarkisian not being able to win a big game as well?
Well, that's there may be something there. You're having fun with this, so I'll just go along with it since you're playing. Since you're playing Twitter X fan. Yeah, I don't think Sark has a big win.
And if you want,
No, he went to Bama last year and won by 10.
was it? Oh, the first game of the year.
No, I think it was
That
the
was 2
second
years
game.
ago. Or okay,
Last
yeah,
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won, and he went to the college football playoff. But that's his big win at Bama. Bama wasn't
Right.
great last year,
Yeah,
but I mean they weren't dominant, but they were good.
You're not going 49-0 Oklahoma Sooner Red River rivalry. That's
No.
I mean, Bama's still bigger than that.
I mean that's a big win, but no.
Sure, but it's Bama. You still take that dub.
When did you do that 2 years ago?
Yes. Yeah, 22.
Yeah, Venables' first year,
But I mean, if you look,
they got rolled.
dive deeper into the Twitter X deal, I mean, there's a little drama brewing.
What is it?
Well, they want to know if
I love drama.
if Quinn Ewers is losing his girlfriend for one reason and one reason only, being Arch.
Arch took her?
Look, there's speculation.
Really?
Now, if that's true, I don't know. Now.
How you gonna get that under control?
You don't?
You love that kind of
You
gossip.
got to let them duke it out. Winner stays.
You love gossip,
I love
and the
it.
reason you had 3 sisters,
Yes.
so you grew up in gossip.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I might have seen one not so credible article mention that.
Right.
So obviously it's
I mean, I think all this is bogus, but
Yeah,
you're
100%.
you're trying to
it's Bible.
fan the flames.
That's right. Well,
Okay.
I mean, if one person mentioned it and credited somebody, surely they're not lying, right? If it's on the internet, I gotta believe it.
Well, they have a Twitter account.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, don't they? Yeah, they filter out all the stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
So, but I mean, surely that's wrong. Arch wouldn't make waves like that. He's a Manning. Mannings don't do that. They're above that.
According to
the Mississippi.
that's true.
The
That's
whole
true.
side, yeah, Tennessee and
That's right. Peyton's
about
Rocky
Florida.
Top. That was a tough weekend for him,
that was,
losing to Georgia.
and that solidified they're gone, right? Is that nail in the casket?
Well, they have to have a good bit of help to get back in.
So you
Tennessee
don't control
does.
your own destiny.
No,
Then
they're
it's over
done.
with.
But some things could play out. We'll see. We'll see.
If Arch throws a whole.
Heupel's done a good job there. It's just they ran in. Man, George, you notice what happened when Bama's back was against the wall? Ole Miss and Georgia's. They played like when this was it. Their staff told them, look, man, you can't lose. Look what Bama did. Look what Ole Miss did against Georgia. Look what Georgia did against Tennessee. Isn't it funny? These teams got 2 losses, and the staff was like, hey, look, you lose again, you're done.
Right.
You're out. Isn't it amazing how Ole Miss, Bama, and Georgia played with 2 losses?
Just last team you want to play. Oh, you look at the bottom of those last 3 in, or quote unquote last 3 in right now for the college football playoff.
Watch.
It's
Let's
almost
see how
dangerous.
much Georgia moves up.
Yeah, they are going to shoot up after that. Actually,
Watch. I couldn't believe they moved them down 9 spots. They went to Ole Miss and lost. Ole Miss is a really good team. I didn't understand that. So here's my question for tomorrow when these rankings are released. Are we out? I don't know if that time clock is right.
Oh no, we got it in a minute.
Okay. All right. We got Jordy Collada coming up next, LSU Insider. But how much is Georgia going to move up with their win over Tennessee? Because that's a good win. Will they move up 3 spots? 4 spots? 5 spots?
4, right?
You would think they're going to get a pretty good bump beating Tennessee, who has plenty of wins. And that is a good win for the committee. Does Bama want to go to the SEC championship game and play Texas or Texas A&M? We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Jordy Collada next. Good morning. We have Jordy Culotta with the Jordy Culotta Show out of Baton Rouge, joining us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. This is ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Things are a little rocky down in Baton Rouge. I want to know if they've burned half the town down after their fourth loss on Saturday night against a Florida team that, I mean, DJ Lagway played well, but he was on one hamstring. And he had no rushing attempts. And LSU dominated in, several statistical categories, but you got to win it on the scoreboard. And as Brian Kelly said in the postgame, Jackson, when the field gets when we're on a short field on offense, we're not doing what we need to do, which is basically offensive scoring efficiency. And that's a problem. So we welcome in Jordy Culotta, LSU insider. Jordy, have they burned half the town down?
Bo, they want to. They're not quite. They have not quite accomplished their mission yet of torching the entire place. But the locals are definitely restless for sure.
Describe the temperature on your show this morning.
Well, I think people are just. This is something that's been trending for a while here with Brian Kelly, and I think the last couple of weeks have kind of seen it push through. There's just there's a feeling of a little disengaged, a little out of touch with his team, and I think we saw an overcorrect on Saturday. With last week, a lot of the lead into Kelly was, hey, how are you helping your young play caller? How are you helping Joe Sloan get through this first year of maybe struggling? And he he made some comments last week of the experience that he had and how he could help. And then on Saturday night, you've seen, he's got the play sheet in his hand, and he's nearly calling almost every series. So, I think that there's a little bit of with Kelly, there's a little bit of feeling of out of touch, a little bit of disengaged from his team. You saw some meltdowns on the sidelines between Kyron Lacey and Brian Kelly. You saw some meltdowns between he and Chris Hilton on the sideline. So just the optics of it don't look up to speed right now. Don't look to something that feels organized, feels competitive. So I think that's something that people have felt for a while, and now it's really starting to show on Saturdays. We've commented about the TV cameras catching Blake Baker and Brian Kelly kind of staring into space on trying to learn how to stop these running quarterbacks. And on Saturday, the defense did really as about as well as the job as they could have. It's just the offense that couldn't execute. I mean, they'd given up 6 sacks all season long, and they gave up 7 on Saturday night. So, you're just kind of starting to feel some of the lack of depth, the disengagement from Kelly of kind of catching up.
Jordy Culotta out of Baton Rouge, LSU insider, the Jordy Culotta Show, and he joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Okay, so you lose to a Florida team that is, has a hurt quarterback. What if Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia come into Baton Rouge this weekend and win that football game, Jordy?
They're in a big bind. Now, look, there's no threat of anybody losing their job. There's no threat of any turnover here, but they are going to be it's going to be a long off season. And, from Kelly's standpoint, I don't know how much more he can do to show that he is dialed into improving the program. He spent a ton of money on revamping the defensive staff last off season. He fired his entire defensive staff. Spent a ton of money on Bo Davis, spent a ton of money on Blake Baker, brought in guys like Jake Olson and Kevin Peoples to help out as well. Corey Raymond's back in the building. And he's got the number 1 recruiting class in the country that is committed to the program. So from an outset standpoint, I don't know if there's anything more he could really show, prove, try and push forward to say, hey, look, I'm trying to do everything I can to make it better. I just think that Kelly really what he's missing and where he's catching the most flack is it seems like he is out of touch. You know, I mean, there are some storylines in the offseason, though, that a lot of people talk about that when you're winning, it's all good. When you start to lose and you lose 3 in a row, people are asking, how does that happen? And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of times where people are talking that he's out of the building, that he's on the golf course, that he spends the summers down in Florida. You know, I mean, those are things that have kind of followed him since he's gotten here. And when you're losing, those just really get kind of hyper-focused. But, you know, I'm with you. You know, look, the opening line on this game is 7.5 for Saturday for LSU Vanderbilt. That feels like a ton of points. It feels like they're almost giving away money on LSU from the confidence that they don't have right now. And I am anxious to see how they will plan to stop Diego Pave and a confident Vanderbilt team. Sorry, Bill, I'm getting on a plane right now. And there's some other things.
No, you're good, buddy. Jordy Collada on the Out of Bounds show. All right, I got one more for you. Do you think that he's lost the locker room, or do you buy into that kind of stuff, Jordy Collada?
No. I think he's got issues with the locker room. And you saw that Saturday. I mean, you know, Kyron Lacey is a leader on that team. He melted down on Brian Kelly Saturday. You know, Chris Hilton is a veteran guy who has been in this program for a while. You saw Brian Kelly and him going back and forth. I don't necessarily believe just because you see people going and you know, yelling back and forth at each other that you don't have the locker room. But you know, there are some fractures that you can see with those being highlighted. The ineptitude on the offense, the lack of creativity, that just feels like that there are some people that are tapping out. I don't necessarily believe that it's totally far gone, but you'll learn a lot this Saturday about where they stand because their backs are up against the wall.
Yeah, this is a compliment. You're LSU. You don't promote from within at offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. You go and get whoever you want, Jordy Collada. You get a dude. I mean,
and look, that was really put forward on recruiting. You know, Bryce Underwood is the number 1 player in the country. He's the number 1 quarterback in the country. He's been committed to LSU for 300 days. Sloan has been the guy that's been the lead recruiter on that. He's done a lot of the legwork on it. And, you know, I mean, Bryce Underwood he's a monumental, game-changing type of player. And there was a lot of soothing that went on there. He'll sign his letter of intent here in less than a month. And I'm anxious to see what LSU is going to do on how they combat that. You know, we talked a lot about that this morning on the show of shadow staffers and consultants now with the new rule in the NCAA where there's, you know, you can hire as many guys as you want. You can bring in as many coaches as you want. You know, it seems like Brad Davis on the offensive line and Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton, the play callers, could really use somebody, at least some firepower behind them to try and give them some type of veteran leadership. Because I'm with you. You know, I mean, rarely do you see promotions within at a school like LSU.
No. You're LSU. That's what. And man, if I'm a big booster, I'm like, dude, we're LSU. Let's go. Let's act like LSU. I mean,
same thing on the special teams, Bo. I mean, they don't have a special teams coordinator. Their special teams have cost them in games. I mean, that Texas A&M game was a circus when it came to the special teams department. And you know that has been my argument really for the last 3 years. I mean, you're LSU football. You've got an enormous budget. You've got you've got access to all of the coaches in that trade who are good. I mean, get a short list and find who the best is, go pay them, and quit worrying about that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Jordy Collada, the Jordy Collada show out of Baton Rouge. They may have their hands full with Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia Saturday night. Be good, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, Bo, thanks.
He does a great job. He's always I mean, I've loved his analysis on LSU, and he doesn't sugarcoat it, right? I mean, over the years, we've brought on guys from every team in the league. Sometimes I can't get the guy to be critical. And Jordy Collada is like, here's the deal. You're LSU. Why are you promoting from within? And what's the deal on the special teams coordinator? I mean, I think you have benefited more than anybody else in the 2000s, brand-wise and football-wise. I know a lot of it was Nick Saban getting hired and the model that he put in place, which is the best model: recruiting, development, strength and conditioning, closing down the border. For the most part, you're not going to get every single player, but they get 98% of who they want. And they go down to Miami and they go over to Houston and they go up to wherever they want. But I think LSU has benefited brand-wise more than anybody else in the 2000s because of obviously Saban